The Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance issues an emergency warning that AI systems capable of completely dismantling global cybersecurity defenses are mere months away. OpenAI updates its restricted cyber weapons model to deploy automated defensive software patches, and SpaceX converts its Colossus supercomputing grid into a massive capital machine, signing a $6.3 billion rental contract. Welcome to today's Daily Rundown. I am your host, Anna. This podcast is researched and produced by Etienne Newman, Senior Software Engineer from Université Laval, based in Calgary, Alberta. Today, we perform a forensic autopsy on the machine-speed cyber eclipse and the sovereign infrastructure race this Tuesday, June 23, 2026. The temporal cushion for enterprise and sovereign defense has officially expired. A joint directive from the cybersecurity agencies of the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand has delivered an explicit mandate to global leadership. Act now. Frontier AI models are months away from executing automated machine-speed offensive strikes that shrink the window between zero-day discovery and systemic exploitation down to near zero, forcing an immediate transition toward mature zero-trust architectures and automated code remediation. In direct response to this threat matrix, OpenAI has aggressively shifted its deployment strategy. The company has rolled out an updated, highly permissive variant of its GPT 5.5 cyber model to vetted defenders, demonstrating an 85.6% capability score in reproducing and patching software vulnerabilities within containerized testing environments. This rollout anchors OpenAI's new Daybreak Cyber Partner Program and its Patch the Planet initiative to preemptively secure the global open-source code bases upon which modern enterprises depend. Before we break down the telemetry of these security shifts, I have a brief strategic request. The algorithms governing your podcast platform dictate what intelligence reaches your network. To ensure you never miss our daily forensic autopsies, please hit follow or subscribe to the DeepMind channel on Apple Podcasts to always listen completely ads-free. It takes just 1 second, but it directly protects independent tech research. Today's episode is brought to you by AIRIA. When global intelligence operations warn of an imminent resource crunch and enterprise architectures demand absolute model governance, your organization needs rigorous orchestration layers. A special thank you to AIRIA for sponsoring today's forensic briefing. Let's decode the architecture.
So, imagine for a second that defending a computer network used to be like playing a really deliberate, high-stakes game of chess.
Right, very methodical.
Exactly. You make a strategic move, your opponent counters, you analyze their strategy, deploy a software patch to protect your pieces, and then you just wait.
You had time.
Yeah, you had time. It was intellectual. But looking at the intelligence we've gathered for today, defending a digital network is, it's no longer like playing chess at all.
No, not even close.
It is honestly like trying to block a swarm of angry bees with a tennis racket.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the timeline for global digital defense hasn't just shrunk, it has completely vanished.
It's gone from years down to literal milliseconds.
Right. And welcome to today's intelligence briefing, acting on behalf of the DeepMind Intelligence Network. I'm your host, and our mission for this deep dive is, well, it's highly specific. We are performing a really deep, holistic autopsy on the daily news for today, June 23rd, 2026.
And it is a critical day to be paying attention, for sure.
Absolutely. And just a quick reminder up top, this intelligence is researched and produced by Etienne Newman, Senior Engineer and Founder at DeepMind based in Canada. So make sure you like and subscribe to DeepMind at Apple to, stay in the loop and support independent audio intelligence.
Which is more important than ever right now.
Yeah. So we're calling the overarching theme for today's briefing the machine speed cyber eclipse and sovereign compute networks. Because, you look at this from a clinical perspective, what are we actually seeing today?
Well, mathematically speaking, we are witnessing a singular structural collapse. If you track the capital flows, the failure of traditional defense architectures, and these just unprecedented sovereign state interventions, they're all colliding at once.
Yeah. And to really understand what we're looking at, why it matters to you listening, we need to start with the collapse of the old way of doing things.
Right.
We had this unprecedented joint statement that just dropped from the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. So that's the US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. And They aren't, like, issuing some vague bureaucratic warning here.
No, they are being highly explicit.
Yeah, they're saying AI systems capable of just completely dismantling our institutional cybersecurity defenses are mere months, not years away.
Months. I mean, the gravity of that timeline from 5 allied nations, you really cannot overstate it. When the collective intelligence apparatus publicly states that human-scale defensive controls are functionally dead, you have to listen.
Right. But why are they failing so fast? Like, legacy zero-trust architectures used to be the gold standard.
Well, they were. For the listener, think of zero trust like a highly secure building, right? Where security guards check your ID at every single internal door, not just at the front gate.
Okay.
Historically, that was great. But what happens when an automated AI agent can move through those doors, forge the necessary IDs, and literally rewrite the digital locks in a fraction of a second?
Oh, wow. So human guards they can't react.
Yeah, exactly. Human IT administrators cannot react fast enough. The intelligence agencies are admitting that if an AI can discover a zero-day flaw, write a custom exploit, and deploy it globally in milliseconds, your traditional manual patch management is just completely useless.
Which brings up a really fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying contradiction. Because we just saw the U.S. government step in and muzzle Anthropic.
The Fable 5 and Mythos 5 models.
Yeah, they forced them to halt deployment because Anthropic themselves admitted the Mythos preview model could, rapidly and autonomously find software exploits.
Right.
But if we're muzzling the models built by the companies trying to establish safety guardrails, aren't we just entering an unwinnable arms race here?
It's a massive structural paradox.
I mean, it feels like businesses are being told, hey, a tidal wave is coming, but we've outlawed the building of seawalls, so good luck.
Yeah, well, Eric Avakian, the technical counselor at Infotech, he pointed out in our briefing materials that legacy vulnerability management is fundamentally inadequate now without full automation.
Right.
And you are asking a crucial question about accountability here. Avakian notes that while governments, they have a role in safety standards, a business cannot simply outsource accountability for its own survival to a government embargo.
No, of course not. You've got your own proprietary data.
Exactly. You cannot wait for a regulatory agency to protect you when these automated onslaughts don't respect borders. They don't respect embargoes. The traditional network perimeter has just dissolved.
When the collected intelligence agencies of the Western world warn that automated machine speed attacks are months away from dismantling your network defenses, relying on manual patching or fragmented security layers is an absolute institutional liability. You need an ironclad, orchestrated enterprise intelligence environment.
We want to thank our sponsor, AIRIA, for making today's briefing possible. AIRIA provides the enterprise-grade AI management and governance platform that modern corporations require to monitor agentic workflows, audit automated scripts, and enforce absolute compliance across multi-model ecosystems. Lock down your internal technology infrastructure via the link in our show notes. And that internal lockdown, securing the enterprise from the inside out, is really the only viable path forward at this point.
Right.
Which is precisely why we are seeing a massive pivot from certain AI labs to actively arm the defenders, automating the very security patching that human engineers just can no longer keep up with.
Yeah, because while Anthropic is, stuck in this regulatory holding pattern, OpenAI is absolutely stepping on the gas right now.
They really are.
They just launched what they are calling the Daybreak framework, and alongside it, they rolled out an updated model specifically for authorized cybersecurity work called GPT 5.5 Cyber.
And we really need to look closely at the underlying metrics of this release to understand the mechanical advantage it provides.
Okay, let's hear that.
So OpenAI reports that GPT 5.5 Cyber achieved an 85.6% score on the CyberGym vulnerability benchmark.
Oh.
And that is up from 81.8% for the base GPT 5.5 model. Now, CyberGym isn't just some written test. It measures an AI agent's ability to navigate a simulated testing environment and successfully reproduce known, complex software vulnerabilities. A near 4% increase at the absolute frontier of computational reasoning is a massive leap forward.
Wait, so it's not just, identifying a potential flaw in the code. It's actually acting like a hacker to prove the flaw exists.
Precisely. It performs deep forensic analysis across millions of lines of code, autonomously strings together the security-relevant components, executes the exploit to validate that the vulnerability is real, and then, and this is crucial, it generates the software patch to fix it.
That's wild. It's acting as a fully automated, closed-loop immune system.
Yes.
And they are trying to apply that immune system globally with this initiative they are calling Patch the Planet.
A very ambitious project.
Right, so OpenAI is funding this alongside cybersecurity firms like Trail of Bits, HackerOne, and Calif. And what's wild is their target here. They aren't just selling this to banks or whatever. They are actively targeting the foundational open source code bases that basically hold the entire internet together.
Right, the plumbing.
Yeah, exactly, the plumbing. We're talking about code languages and tools like Python, Go, and cURL. Why focus there instead of, big corporate software?
Because open source software is the invisible scaffolding of the modern world. Almost every corporate application, banking app, government database, they all rely on free open source tools like cURL just to transfer data.
Right.
So if an adversary finds a fatal flaw in cURL, they don't just compromise one company, they compromise the entire global supply chain.
Yeah.
The Patch the Planet initiative uses OpenAI's Codex Security plugin to ingest these massive ancient code bases. It spots vulnerabilities that human volunteers have missed for a decade.
And then what? Humans just approve it.
Basically, human engineers at Trail of Bits act as a final filter to weed out false positives before merging the AI's patches. It is a necessary, proactive intervention to harden the internet's foundation before those machine speed attacks arrive.
Okay, so we have the U.S. trying to lock down offensive capabilities with export controls while simultaneously trying to, patch the foundation of the internet.
Yes.
But what happens to the rest of the world? I mean, if you're a tech company in another country, and the U.S. government says you can't buy the most advanced computer chips and you can't access the most advanced frontier models, how do you keep up?
You don't build bigger, you build smarter.
Right, and that's exactly what a company in Japan just proved is possible.
The geopolitical workarounds here are always fascinating from a risk analysis perspective. You are referring to Sakana AI and their newly launched model, Fugu.
Yes, Fugu.
Fugu is a masterclass in circumvention architecture, explicitly designed to bypass those strict U.S. export restrictions that crippled Anthropic.
I read how they built this, and I still can't quite wrap my head around it. They didn't just build one giant AI, right? They built a whole management system. Can you explain how this actually functions?
Absolutely. So think of a standard frontier AI model like a single massive supercomputer brain. To train it and run it, you need tens of thousands of restricted chips.
Which they couldn't get.
Right. Sakana AI didn't do that. Instead, they built Fugu as a multi-agent orchestration API.
Okay, what does that mean?
An API is essentially a software intermediary, a manager. Instead of hiring one restricted supergenius, Sakana built a system that networks together a pool of smaller, less powerful, and completely legal AI models.
Oh, interesting.
So when you, the user, ask Fugu to perform a complex cybersecurity test, the API dispatcher breaks your request down into smaller tasks. It assigns those tasks to the various smaller models, cross-checks their mathematical reasoning against one another, merges the answers, and delivers a highly sophisticated result.
Okay, so it's basically a digital hive mind.
Essentially, yes.
I saw they have a faster base Fugu for everyday coding, and then this heavier ultra version that pools resources for really intense jobs, like finding zero-day exploits. And Sakana is claiming this hive mind orchestration delivers frontier-level capability without ever triggering international export control alarms.
Well, they are claiming that, yes. But as someone who analyzes venture risk, I must point out the underlying economics here.
Ah, the cost.
Right. Orchestrating a hive mind creates massive latency and computational overhead. You are forcing a network to run multiple calculations across various smaller models just to simulate the reasoning of one massive model.
So it's slower.
And less reliable at the absolute top end. Early reviews suggest it is struggling to consistently match the benchmark performance of, say, Anthropic's Fable 5. Furthermore, because Sakana hides all these underlying helper models behind their API, you have zero visibility into the actual compute costs being burned to generate an answer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It is a brilliant geopolitical hedge to avoid U.S. sanctions, but the physical energy and capital required to run it are highly suspect.
Well, and speaking of the physical energy and capital, let's ground this whole conversation in physical reality, because whether you are running a giant monolithic cyber model or a clever multi-agent hive mind, you need hardware.
Massive amounts of hardware.
Exactly. We are in the middle of a brutal infrastructure squeeze, and Elon Musk is capitalizing on it in a way that is just staggering to look at.
The capital flows surrounding physical compute right now are historic. I mean, if we perform a forensic autopsy on SpaceX's compute infrastructure, we see an absolute masterclass in asset repurposing.
Yeah, because Colossus wasn't built for this originally.
No. Musk initially constructed the massive Colossus supercomputers to serve as the training engine for xAI's Grok models. But he has rapidly transformed this internal resource into a multi-billion-dollar sovereign rental grid.
The numbers are almost hard to comprehend. Like, SpaceX just signed a $6.3 billion compute rental deal with an AI startup called Reflection AI.
Right.
And according to the sources, that is just the beginning. They're leasing server space to Anthropic to the tune of $1.25 billion every single month.
Per month.
Google is paying them $920 million a month. Oh, and they just acquired the AI coding platform Cursor outright for $60 billion.
Musk understands that owning the physical compute infrastructure is far more lucrative and powerful than simply competing on software performance alone. Even if his Grok model is not the absolute smartest model in the room, his Colossus data centers have become a sovereign enterprise cloud.
Yeah, everyone needs them.
The entire industry, even his direct competitors, are utterly dependent upon his servers to train their own models. It is a pure infrastructure monopoly play. He is effectively taxing the global development of artificial intelligence.
But the U.S. tech giants aren't the only ones in this infrastructure race. I mean, if the software is weaponized, the hardware is becoming nationalized.
Very true.
China just retook the crown for the world's fastest supercomputer for the United States. Their new machine is called Lineshine, and it just clocked in at 2.198 exaflops.
Which beats the El Capitan supercomputer in California.
Right. Now, for the listener, an exaflop is 8 billion calculations per second. It's an unfathomable number. But here's what confused me the briefing. How on earth do you build the fastest supercomputer in the world when the U.S. has heavily embargoed all the advanced graphics processing units, or GPUs, that normally power these things?
It requires an entirely different architectural philosophy. So a GPU, which is what NVIDIA makes, is incredibly efficient for AI because it acts like thousands of basic workers all painting a tiny piece of a massive mural simultaneously.
Okay, parallel processing.
Right. When China was cut off from acquiring NVIDIA's H100 or B200 GPUs in mass quantities, they couldn't use that parallel worker method. So they simply bypassed the GPU requirement entirely and engineered a massive custom CPU.
Like this central processor in my laptop, it just scaled way up.
Exactly. A CPU is more like a few incredibly brilliant artists doing highly complex work sequentially. China engineered a custom 304-core processor. And to achieve the necessary exaflop speed, they literally linked 13.79 million of these cores together, operating at 1.55 gigahertz. It is brute force, mathematically rigid engineering.
That is insane.
And the physical footprint of that brute force is immense. Lineshine draws 42.2 megawatts of continuous power.
42 megawatts. I mean, that's enough to power a small city just for one computer.
Yes. And we see this exact same physical reality playing out globally. Compute is demanding unprecedented energy and cooling. In the US, NVIDIA just announced that their new Rubin servers will be at 100% liquid-cooled.
So no more fans?
No, meaning they have to run specialized coolant through the machines at hot tub temperatures just to keep the silicon from literally melting. Simultaneously, startups like Baton are raising $1.5 billion purely to handle the daily traffic of inference calls, over 1 billion daily calls.
Wow.
The physical reality of this machine speed eclipse is just a voracious appetite for water, power, and capital.
So, if exaflop supercomputers represent the absolute limit of classical physics and traditional engineering, where does this arms race go next? Well, it goes subatomic.
The quantum realm.
Right, because President Trump just signed 2 executive orders that push national security into an entirely new dimension: quantum computing. Now, keeping the focus strictly on the strategic implications of these orders, the first mandate is to build a federal quantum computer strong enough for scientific research by 2028.
Ambitious.
Very. But the second order is the one that really sets the clock ticking, doesn't it?
The second executive order forces a mandatory federal migration to post-quantum cryptography by the year 2031. This is a state intervention driven by sheer sovereign panic over an event known in intelligence circles as Q-Day.
Q-Day. Okay, let's make this real for the listener. What actually happens on Q-Day?
Think about every password you've ever saved online. Think about your secure banking app, your private medical records, the military's encrypted communication network. All of that data is currently protected by mathematical algorithms, primarily one called RSA. RSA relies on the fact that factoring massive prime numbers takes a classical supercomputer millions of years to solve.
Okay.
Q-Day is the theoretical moment when a functioning quantum computer comes online. Because a quantum computer operates using subatomic probabilities rather than classical binary code, it can solve that exact same RSA math problem in mere seconds.
So the day a quantum computer turns on, the locks on every digital door in the world simply fall off. It's game over for privacy and security.
Precisely.
Yeah.
All historical encrypted data that adversaries have been vacuuming up and storing for decades that will be instantly decrypted. This is why the federal government is drawing a hard line at 2031.
They have to.
They are attempting to force a structural upgrade of the entire internet's architecture before the decryption threat materializes. And it's why the Commerce Department is aggressively pumping billions of dollars into companies like IBM, Microsoft, and Google, whose new Willow chip is already demonstrating capabilities to execute these mind-bending computations.
It is a race to build the lock before the master key is finished.
That is exactly what it is.
It's fascinating and a little overwhelming, honestly, to see this rush to control foundational code in silicon and quantum states. But what truly surprised me in the sources is that we are seeing the exact same dynamic happening in biology.
Yes, the biological grammar.
Right. We have a Stanford spin-out called Radical Numerics that just raised $50 million. But they aren't building an AI to read software code or crack passwords. They are building an AI to read the grammar of human DNA.
It is a remarkable technological leap. They are calling their proprietary model Omnii, and it is classified as a genome language model.
Okay, how does it work compared to, like, ChatGPT?
If you understand how ChatGPT works, predicting the next logical English word in a sentence, you can understand Omnii. Instead of treating words as the primary syntax, Radical Numerics treats biological-based the building blocks of DNA as the syntax. By feeding the AI massive volumes of genomic data, the model learns the grammar of life. It can then predict and generate entirely novel biological sequences, theoretically accelerating the design of custom medical treatments and therapeutics.
I mean, the potential for good there is obvious.
Yeah.
But the strategy they are taking with who gets access to this model is what really stands out to me in the briefing.
The lockdown.
Yeah. Radical Numerics previously built older models called EVO and EVO 2. These were the first AI models capable of reading and writing DNA at scale, and they made those completely open source.
Right. Anyone could access them.
They literally used EVO to design a completely new bacteriophage, which is a type of virus that infects bacteria, an entirely AI-designed biological entity, and they just put the recipe out there on the internet for anyone to see.
Yes.
But with this new hyper-advanced Omni model, they are keeping it completely locked down. It feels like giving away the blueprint to a match, but then aggressively locking up the blueprint to a flamethrower.
That analogy perfectly captures the tension here. The CEO of Radical Numerics, Eric Nguyen, explicitly refers to this as a dual-prong approach to biological design and biological defense. We saw this exact same friction earlier with OpenAI and Anthropic.
With software.
Exactly. When you open source the early, less capable models, you drive academic adoption, you prove to investors that the technology works, and you build a community. But once the model reaches a frontier capability where it can flawlessly generate complex, viable biological organisms, open sourcing it becomes a catastrophic sovereign risk. It ceases to be an academic tool for discovering medicine and instantly becomes a potential vector for automated bioweapon development.
So when we step back and look at the whole board today, the sheer scale of what's happening is staggering. We've got OpenAI deploying autonomous models to patch the open source software, holding the internet together before hackers find the flaws.
Right.
We've got massive capital flows building custom exaflop supercomputers just to keep up with the math. We've got the federal government racing to rebuild the entire cryptographic foundation of the world before quantum computers break it. And we have biologists locking down DNA language models so they aren't used to print novel pathogens. What is the ultimate takeaway here?
If we synthesize the totality of this intelligence briefing, what we're witnessing is the absolute militarization of compute. Whether the battleground is silicon servers, open source code bases, subatomic quantum states, or the base pairs of DNA, the fundamental architecture of defense has shifted permanently.
It's the new paradigm.
Completely. The luxury of human latency, the time it takes for a person to analyze a threat and react, is gone. Nation-states and megacorporations are deploying massive capital into physical infrastructure and automated agents because they recognize a cold mathematical truth. Survival in the modern era now depends entirely on the speed of your algorithms.
From machine speed cyber attacks to sovereign data centers, the timeline for action has truly vanished. Thank you for that incredibly rigorous breakdown. It is a lot to process, but, unpacking these structural shifts is exactly why we do these deep dives.
It is essential work.
Yeah.
And I will leave you and the listener with one final thought to consider.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've spent this entire briefing discussing how to patch vulnerabilities in silicon, code, and even biology. We are handing over the keys to automated AI systems to orchestrate our defense because human reflexes are simply too slow.
Right.
But as these automated systems take full control of our networks, writing their own patches and fighting their own invisible wars in milliseconds, you have to ask yourself, at what point does human oversight stop being a safety feature and become the single greatest vulnerability in the network?
Oh, wow. A heavy, unsettling question to end on, but definitely one we all need to be thinking about as this technology scales. That wraps up today's briefing. A massive thank you again to Etienne Newman and the JamGmind Intelligence Network for researching and producing today's deep dive into the sources. Remember, if you want to support independent audio intelligence and ensure you never miss these critical insights, head over to Apple and hit that subscribe button. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
That concludes our forensic briefing for June 23, 2026. The strategic signal for today is the accountability of the perimeter. The Five Eyes warning and OpenAI's rapid expansion of Project Daybreak confirm that the era of treating cyber risk as a check-the-box compliance exercise is dead. When offensive cycles compress to machine speed, your organization cannot outsource its risk mitigation to an external software vendor or a generic cloud provider. You must own your token capital, harden your legacy systems, and implement automated validation layers that prove your controls perform during a live incident. Speed is no longer an efficiency metric. It is the baseline of operational survival. If you are ready to secure your company's infrastructure and audit your multi-agent pipelines, check the show notes for our curated AI executive toolkit. As a special bonus for our global community, we have provided exclusive discount codes for Google Workspace and my AI and Machine Learning Tutor Pro apps. You can claim those assets directly through the links in the show notes below. This episode was sponsored by AIRIA. Subscribe to the DeepMind channel on Apple Podcasts to always listen completely ads-free. I am Anna. Stay secure and keep unraveling the future.
And before you go, if your company is building the tools that power the workflows we talked about today, I'd love to showcase them to this audience. We don't just run ads, we build technical simulations that prove your value. Let's build something together. Visit jamgmind.com/partners to get started. Until next time, keep building.